Paul here on the Latino Slant. One of the staples of our channel is that we bring you guys interviews with filmmakers, writers, and actors in front of and behind the camera. I've been saying that 2024, as we're getting towards there, is going to be a very interesting year because 2023 has been a watershed for Latino film and television in front and behind the camera. And I'm very excited to introduce our guest. He's a filmmaker. He's an LA homeboy, and he's been doing films since the 90s, including the year 2000's Price of Glory with Jimmy Smits, which you might have heard about. But he's got a new short, and it is hitting and getting all this acclaim and all these awards. You saw the review. The review will be linked right here. It's called The Kill Floor. It's a short film centered around a small town, mainly raza, Mexican American, community, in that there are workers at this particular factory, and they're given misinformation. They're being given not the full information on the pandemic and what happens in those early days. And it's really interesting to see film and filmmakers starting to tackle, what we all collectively went through from their point of view. And I really enjoyed this short film. And I'm an older acquaintance of Mr. Carlos Avila, so let's bring him in. Senor, how are you?
Good, man. Great to see you, Paul.
Okay, first of all, congratulations on The Kill Floor.
Thank you very much. It's one of those projects. There are those stories that somehow come into your life, and that you have to tell them. And this was one of those films. When I started, I think like everybody during those early days of the pandemic, wondering whether the world was going to make it through what we were facing, and just being glued to the news. And so reading about what was happening in the meatpacking plants, which is the setting for The Kill Floor, and then reading more and finding out that there was a big Latino workforce. It seemed to me that there was a story to be told there. I'm glad that we had a chance to explore it. I really felt as if, there was an urgency to the subject matter that needed to be, put out there. And so I'm so proud that we were able to make the film, to get it out into the world, and for it to be a witness to what happened during those early days of the pandemic.
So, I'm right with you because, when it did hit, LA just shut down.
Yeah.
And I would read the numbers, online, and I just started seeing kind of like week after week, month after month, because, that's all we had time to do, was just read stuff. Was the Latino population of cases and deaths were just,
Yeah,
and I was
exactly.
just like, oh my God. So as I did more reading, I read that it was a mixture depending on if you're in a rural town or a smaller town, families living together,
Yeah,
working together,
sure.
and raza Latinos that never stopped working
Exactly.
because we had to have our infrastructure keep going.
Well, we had to provide for our families, and so you keep working in those circumstances. You keep, you're not going to necessarily have access to the government funding that keeps you afloat. In certain meatpacking plants, there's a big undocumented community that is working. And so, these are people that have to keep working. And so they're choosing between making a living and putting their lives at risk. And so we saw that over and over again. I was able to talk to meatpacking plant workers. I was able to talk to people who work at the unions who represent those workers. I was able to talk to activists that were advocating on behalf of the meatpacking plant workers, and journalists who covered the story. And, they all told me the same thing, is that these people had to work. They had to provide. And so that was what was going on. It was, there was that obligation to provide for a family.
So, help me out here because we know the backdrop,
Yeah.
right? And we just talked about it, which is what we all went through. How how did you make it interesting for maybe, movie lovers, moviegoers, or fans of yours that, want to see a very dynamic family story? Because it can't just be like,
Yeah.
stats and,
No,
uh,
and I think that was the goal. Certainly there had been a lot of really exceptional journalism that was done about what happened. I mean, if you go to the ProPublica page, there's a whole section of article after article after article uh, documenting what happened. They talk about it from a lot of different perspectives. But for me, I mean, as a filmmaker who occasionally gets to tell a Latino story that's very meaningful to me personally. I was trying to find a way in, an emotional way into the story. And so, as you saw in the film, we constructed this, or I constructed a father-son story that was essentially an immigrant story about a father who makes sacrifices for his son so that his son can have a better life, that classic immigrant story. And so that is the emotional core at the heart of the kill floor. And so being able to, I knew I had that obligation as a storyteller to involve the audience. It couldn't just be, um, as I was preparing the film, I would constantly tell people, look, I'm not making a documentary. I'm telling a fictional story. And it's a fictional story that's steeped in facts and people's recollections and the interviews that I made. All that stuff is woven into it. But I knew that I needed to have an emotional story at the core of it, something that an audience could respond to, and identify with these characters. And I think, at the heart of it is the father-son story. I think that's something that people can connect with universally. If you're Latino, if you're not Latino, it's a story that I think people can respond to.
absolutely. In my review, I was just like, this
Yeah,
father, this actor,
yeah.
Miguel
Miguel,
Nájera, I believe.
Miguel Nájera, yeah, indeed.
Oh my God.
So
I
beautiful.
like
Yeah,
I just love seeing
yeah,
different leading men, different, and this man just reminded me of like my great uncles and
absolutely.
it's like, just they're salt of the earth, man,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
the love that they had was also a very, grounded, real, and vulnerable
absolutely.
thing. So
Yeah,
you showed that, man, with these two with this father and son. That to me was everything,
yeah, exactly.
what's been the audience's reactions? Because you've shown this a lot at film festivals.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a really beautiful festival run. I mean, it's been very, throughout the country, coast to coast. We've been on the East Coast. We've been throughout Texas. We played 3 festivals in Texas. We played here in California, many, many festivals. And the response has been universal. I mean, people come up to me, and I've heard many times that, people want it to be longer. People want it to be a feature. And I don't know if that's in the cards or not, but I think it tells me that people have connected with the story. They've gone on that emotional journey with the characters, and so that has been very, very gratifying. I've even had people tell me, there was one conversation that I had after a screening, and the person said, "I believed them so much, I forgot that they were actors." And so the fact that we were able to tap into our beautiful Latino acting community and put together an acting ensemble of characters, of wonderful character actors and leading men, and to create this world through these performances that was so convincing and so successful that people forget that they're actors is to me, that's quite an accomplishment that we were able to do that, in a short film, no less, 27-minute running time, that we were able to do that. I think it
Mhm.
was really, it's one of the things I'm most proud of in regard to the film.
And let's pause right here, and it's good to note that Carlos, you have directed not just Latino stuff.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
your career, I mean, since the early '90s, obviously we're very familiar with your Latino work, but
yeah,
you've done some television too. I mean,
exactly, yeah.
how was that, to navigate those waters, and then to do projects like this, because this is like, one of several, more independent projects you've done.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think you look for a lot of different type of professional opportunities. And so part of it is, I was pursuing episodic television as well as pursuing my own projects. And I had the opportunity to work on shows like Grimm, like Cold Case, my episode of Cold Case, which was a while ago, but um, in that I was able to direct Chadwick Boseman. It was one of his early breakthrough roles. And so to have that collaboration with somebody like that, if you're just working within a palette that you're familiar with, you might not get those opportunities. In the case of Grimm, which I directed a couple of episodes of that, to work with visual effects was really quite eye-opening and fun and exciting, because that was something that I wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to do, if I was sticking to some of the subject matter that I was normally familiar with. So episodic television allows you to grow. I found myself, and I'll be honest, just in my growth as a director, making the kill floor, I had so much confidence out there. I had so much, I knew where the camera needed to be. I knew where the actors needed to be. I knew how to be efficient.
And
And
I'm gonna
so,
back this up. I'm gonna interrupt. Guys,
yeah,
I totally back up what Carlos is saying right now, because it is such a well-made piece.
yeah.
That's why everyone's saying, "It needs to be longer, we want more," because, bro, you were on point. You were on point.
Yeah, and then certainly in regard to your collaborators, we put together a team that was exceptional. My wife, who produced the film with me, but she also costume designed the film. She has costume designed Flaming Hot. She's costume designed The Walking Dead. She's costume designed Real Women Have Curves. She costume designed our film, and then she also produced it with me. And so our editor, he has worked on everything from, not as a first, not as the editor, but he's worked on big movies like Captain America. He's the visual effects editor for What We Do in Shadows, the FX series. His name is Tom Calderon, and Tom and I, we've worked on 8 things together. And so to bring his skill set into, um, the world of the kill floor was just remarkable. Our composer, the Angel, also, she just had a film that was on Showtime called Heist 88. She did the music for. This is the
Great music.
third
Great
thing that
score.
we third thing that we've done together. And so it's that level of people that you bring to the party, and you rely on their expertise. You work with actors that are giving you feature film quality performances. And so, all that, leads to a story that is effective. It's being told efficiently. It's being told on a feature film quality level. I mean, our sound designer mixer has worked with Alexander Payne on several films. He did The Holdovers, and he did our mix and our sound design for the film. We're
Quite a
coming.
team. What a
Yeah, I mean,
team.
we're coming to the end of our festival run, but I always encourage people, if you can see the film in a theater,
Oh, God.
that's a phenomenal
Yes.
experience, because man, it looks like we had 20 times the money that we actually did. So it's really, it's a remarkable team that we put together. The ensemble, the acting ensemble, is first rate, and then I'm just on another level as a director. Not I don't mean that in a in a braggadocious way. I mean that in the sense that I brought all the skills that I've acquired over the years into making this short film. And so it feels like a movie.
Absolutely. Um, okay, that's very interesting in regards to you being let's just use the word lucky to bring that team of professionals together
Yeah,
that you have worked with over the years,
yeah,
because the timing is everything.
yeah.
Um, so and it shows. Um, is that something that you could recommend to up and coming creators, directors, writers? Is you if you find your people always trying to find a way or a project in the future to bring them in to work? Um, yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I've been asked that question recently quite a bit. What advice would you give to younger filmmakers? And I think, one thing that popped into my mind that I find I live, is this notion of having your tribe, having this group of collaborators that, uh, you track yourself against them. They grow, they become more sophisticated in what they do, and if the timing works out, um, to keep working with them, because you learn from each other, you grow from each other. Additionally, I mean, these people will go off and have other experiences. You'll do the same, but then you come together, and all the collective knowledge that you've gathered, just elevates a piece of work. It elevated the kill floor in such a huge way. I mean, we didn't have a production office, so I hadn't worked with Elaine Montalvo, my wife, in a while. But so we set up her wardrobe space here in our condo, and so I got to see her work, and I was just blown away at the efficiency with which she worked. The we lived together. Of course, we're husband and wife, but we're constantly having a rolling costume design meeting throughout the whole process. And just to see the questions she was asking, the level of sophistication that she had about character, about story, about the practicality of implementing some of the creative decisions that we were making, was super impressive. I mean, she's working at the level that she's working at for a reason.
One of the great things about your cast, Carlos, is that you're able to nab Michelle Green.
Right.
2 things, a couple things, total crush on her from LA Law.
Mhm.
Wow. And that, people don't know, isn't she Mexican? Or something
I
like that.
believe that her mother is either Dominican or Salvadorian, you know?
There's some Latina
Yeah,
in her,
yeah.
but,
She's our stealth Latina. She's our
she's stout,
stealth
man.
Latina.
But you got her to play the big baddie that represents
Yeah, yeah,
the corporation. Tell us
yeah.
about that.
Well, one of the things that I kept hearing up in my conversations prior to writing the script, I did talk to a couple of journalists, Latino journalists, and they would talk about these press conferences. And there were a couple of press conferences that were very famous that came out of the early days of the pandemic, where you got the sense that the meatpacking plants were clearly pointing the finger at the workers and their lifestyles. And so there was one that really blew up, and made the news. So it was great to be able to put that in the script, and so when I was looking for somebody who would play that character, for some reason, maybe it was because of the LA Law episodes that I'd seen with Jimmy Smits, who I'd worked with a while back. But I remembered Michelle Green, and I go, oh, I wonder what Michelle Green's doing now. And so I'd seen a couple of episodes that she had done for some of the procedural shows that are out there. And so I thought, oh my God, Michelle Green would be great. And so I talked to our casting director, Patrick Baca, and Patrick, I believe he had worked on something with her. And so we got the script to Michelle, and and I also was very aware of the fact that she had Latina heritage. She was our stealth Latina, as I keep saying. And I said, well, let's because I wanted to have as many Latinos in the cast. I go, well, that'd be kind of interesting to have somebody like that, play that character. And so we reached out, and she did a self tape, and then I gave her a couple of notes, and she provided an additional self tape. I said, "This is awesome." And so we had a conversation, and she got it. She'd been away from acting for a little while because she had taken care of elderly parents. And so this was like the perfect thing for her to come in and do. We only worked with her for one day, but she came in and she, really did a beautiful, nuanced job. It's not just your corporate baddie. She has moments where she does, the crisis and the impact of the crisis does affect her momentarily. And so it was great to have those colors come through in some of those scenes with her and our main character, Gil Navarro, who's a reporter.
I love that word nuance because
Yeah.
you had to do it, but you got a flair for that, or a demeanor for that in your work.
Yeah.
So that's really good, especially nowadays because it's so easy to ham fist things
Yeah.
to audiences. You want them to discover, at least I'm thinking, and that's what I want, as I'm being entertained. So okay, that's great. You did the year of awards, of film festivals, gotten some awards. What's next for this film? I want to know because we have an international audience. How
Hmm.
can they check out the Kill Floor?
Ooh, that's good. I mean, we're still pushing on the festival circuit, so we do have it out to a couple of international film festivals. So we'll see what comes of that. I think once it starts streaming, it becomes a little less interesting to film festivals. But we are trying with that. I'm not sure if people can access the. I think people in Canada can access um, the streaming for the Kill Floor, but I'll find that out, and perhaps I'll get back to you with that information. But I think primarily it'll be seen in the United States.
So what we'll do, guys, as this short progresses along in the future, we'll update the links as to where you can possibly see it. How about that?
That's great. Thank you.
That's great.
Thanks for that.
Well,
Yeah,
Carlos, again, man. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I do want people to see it. So, if we can
Mhm.
facilitate that, that would be fantastic. Yeah.
Again, congratulations on the Kill Floor, and continued success. I'd said in my review, I'm like, I'm just happy to see Carlos direct because I haven't been keeping up, and it was just great to see
Yeah.
you do your thing so well,
Thank
and
you.
so yeah, man.
Much. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, it's the journey that so many Latino filmmakers are on. You want to do work that's close to you, but you also need to sort of navigate sort of the ebbs and flows of a profession that isn't always welcoming to diverse directors. So we do the dance as best we can.
Very well said. Very, very, very professionally well said, sir.
That's
But
great.
all right, well, just follow Carlos on his Instagram. We'll have all the links in the video box
Awesome.
description. We'll see you soon, Carlos.
All right.
Gracias.
Well, thanks for making the time. Appreciate it. Bye.